live on Facebook.
Here we are.
Live on Instagram. Well,
because it's Monday Night Live.
See, you said it.
So that's where we're at.
There we are, Monday Night Live. Kate said it, I don't have to. Welcome, everybody. Dean Nixon, Kate Semmens, TurningLeaf Wellness St. George, Utah. So excited to join up with everybody on this Monday night as usual.
Woohoo! OMG. Somebody's calling. Oh, I answered.
There you go.
Sorry,
phone call.
Instagram.
Sorry, Instagram. Phone call comes through.
Jeez.
Well, we are excited to get started tonight. We had such great feedback from our last conversation. It was just so fun.
Yeah.
Some of the comments that we got, and not just on each of the platforms, but also some of the people I ran into. It was just some funny comments and feedback that we're getting, but people are really enjoying the conversation. And that's really what our goal is. Mm-hmm. Is to really just open up conversation, and hopefully you guys, those of you that are tuning in, you're able to take this these conversations, you're able to take this content, you're able to take it to the dinner table, to the couch and talk, but you're able to engage people in your life in these topics and get their opinions and their views.
Yeah, and we hope that you can really feel that we try to talk about topics that are really applicable to everybody. Like it's a human process that we're all going through, and so I love that you just said, continue the conversation, keep it going.
Keep it going.
Let us know about it. Like, we love to interact with you. So
yes, thank you everybody for saying hello. And so tonight's topic, one of the things that we really wanted to talk about tonight, and Kate and I were getting ready for the show, and we were processing it earlier in the day. And I sprung it on. I said, Kate, this is what I want to talk about. And as I told her what I wanted to talk about, it actually evolved into a different topic.
Yeah, it did.
So here we go. So this is what it evolved in. This is the point that I think really resonated with both of us, is we wanted to really spend some time focusing on the topic of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. And especially with ourselves, right? Like, we can apply this to any level that we need to foster forgiveness in, but I think especially when it comes to our own individual self, because I don't know about you guys, but that's where I have the hardest time. It's oftentimes hard to forgive other people's for the things that they've done that we feel like they've wronged us, right, or come up against us, but I'm my hardest critic.
Yeah, we tend to be the most difficult on ourselves, and that's kind of how we started the conversation. I said, Kate, I want to go in and I want to talk about being kinder to ourselves.
Right.
And as we started really processing through it, the one thing that kept resonating is this understanding of forgiveness. And the funny part about it is, as we started to debate, it actually really got into a great conversation. And I wish we'd just done the live
right then. I know.
But the thing that's interesting to me about forgiveness, it is such an elusive topic, an elusive conversation, and it's hard for us to really wrap our heads around. Mm-hmm. And so I was sharing with Kate that in some of my readings and some of the work that I'd been doing, especially recently, and I was talking about the reading I'd been doing with Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. There was something that really hit me profoundly from my meditation on it. So I'm reading and I'm meditating, and all of a sudden it really dawned on me that forgiveness can be really summarized in a powerful way. And this is how it really resonated with me, that forgiveness is the absence of emotional pain around a specific item or thing, that is event or process. It's when the emotional pain is now gone, when we freed ourselves from that emotional mm-hmm. pain. And so that's what really led me to wanting to talk more about that, as taking care of ourselves, because there's so much emotional pain that we wrap up ourselves up in. And especially when we think about ourselves mm-hmm. and the view of ourselves and the inability to forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we've made,
right.
the things that we've done, things that we didn't do or should have done. And this emotional pain that we carry, this shame or this guilt, it really is the lack of forgiveness. And being able to forgive is such an important piece of who we are. But it's always that, as we were saying, it just seems so patronizing. Just forgive them.
Right. Like it's just this easy thing to do, right? Like, oh, this is how you need to move on. You're going to forgive them. Oh, I am. Because that's just easy.
It's just so
First of all,
easy.
how do I do it?
Right.
And get over this? And second of all, but I'm really hurt.
Right.
And, like, I'm still really hurting.
And it's such a simple word, forgiveness. It's just a word, but it's such a complex piece. It's so complex, forgiveness. And so this is the part that we were talking about, is we've got to get to a point where we can forgive, especially forgive self.
Right.
And to be able to get to a point where we can go, okay, that emotional pain that was there and has been there has diminished or is diminishing or easing up and letting go. And that's how we measure that process of forgiveness. Is we know, and those of you out there, we all know, we all know that forgiveness is a lifelong process.
Yes.
And for some of us, it may move on into the next life process, whatever you choose to believe in. But we know that it can be a lifetime depending upon that pain. But if we can really focus on the diminishing of the pain, then we can see our progression towards forgiveness. Does that make sense?
It makes sense to me.
Yes.
Good job, guys.
Thumbs up, Kate. Everybody else, yes. So I need to see some thumbs ups.
And I do love the part that we need to recognize that there are just some things that we probably are going to carry with us into the hereafter, into whatever happens after this life, if you believe that there is something that goes on past this. Like, you may not be able to work through it in this life fully, right? But I do love that idea of making progress on it so that the pain subsides and it's not as traumatic for us again and again and again.
Absolutely. I think about when I was a kid, there's a scar in the palm of my hand. And when I was a kid, I was climbing a fence. I was probably about 12 years old. I was climbing from the neighbor's yard into my yard. And it was a chain link fence. The neighbors had watered their lawn, so my shoes were wet. I climb up to the top of the fence, and as I get to the very top where the tines are, my shoes slip out, and the tines literally rip into my hand, and I'm hanging from my hand on the fence, on the tines. And I remember finally getting my grip and able to just pull my hand off and kind of fall down. But that scar, that story, and that scar is still there. And it's not going to go away. It will be with me for the rest of my life. The story of that, I can feel the body kind of knot up, even just telling the story, but the pain is gone. And that's, in my best explanation, that's forgiveness. The scar will always remain, but sometimes we expect the scar to go with it. We expect not only for the pain to go away, but we want the scar and the residue to go. And that's part of the problem I see a lot of times with people is like, well, you need to forgive that person and let them back into your life and love them fully. No, that's not necessarily true. And that's that sometimes that scar is there to remind us of a boundary that we need to set. We can still love them, but we know that we need to enforce boundaries even more than we did before with this person. As I like to talk about in the seminars, you're not giving them all the keys back to the kingdom. You give them one key at a time to create that trust back again if somebody has wounded you. But the bottom line is that scar doesn't always go away as though we expect it to. And there may be people in your life inferring that you should let that scar go too. Well, it doesn't work on the body, then it won't work emotionally either, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think we can expect that from ourselves as well. When we apply this to our own self-forgiveness, it's not like you just erase parts of your life, right? You're not going to have like memory loss and it's not going to be there. But the emotion that it's going to cause is not going to be painful. It'll be a remembrance. And then we have some really cool steps that we're going to go over with you here in just a minute about some different ways to get to that place. But I do think that that's an important piece. And it's also an important piece to your healing is that it's not just going to disappear, right? Because it's made an impact on you. Like, for good or for bad, it has turns you into who you are. Like it's a piece of you.
Right.
And so it's never you'll always have that scar. I
Yes.
love that. It's a perfect analogy.
And it's what we do with it that will determine whether it is something powerful in our lives or depowering in our lives. And that's that next piece as we're talking about the steps. And so one of the first things that we've got to do as we're moving in through this forgiveness piece is first we have to recognize that there is pain, there is a difficulty there, and we acknowledge it. But then what we've got to do is once we are able to step past the initial pain of that, we have to step back and we have to look for the message or the lesson in the pain. We've got to look for that lesson or the message. Is that message, hey, I need to be less sensitive? Is that message, hey, I need stronger boundaries? Is that message, I've got to stop trying to be more polite than honest, like we talked about in past episodes?
I need to work on using my voice so my voice can be heard.
What is that message? And once we recognize that message, that's really the first step is, and that's the part I want to bring up real quick, is I can be hurt by something, someone, a process, an event, comment, bullying, abuse, any of those types of things. I can be hurt by those, but nobody can make me a victim of those but me. And if I refuse to change it into a message, if I refuse to change it into something powerful, I will forever be a victim of whatever was done or whatever I did. I will be a victim of that situation, that process, that person, that event, that message, that whatever it is. But if I choose to empower myself by saying, well, what is the message? And then implementing the message, then I can become empowered. Then I can take that and go, okay, yeah, I need more boundaries in this part of my life, or that's not a healthy person for me in my life, or I need to communicate better, or I need to look at myself differently, or whatever that message is. Once I implement it, now I can become powerful. I had the event, the process, the hurt, the pain, but it doesn't define me.
Right.
I'm not owned by it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, it's made me greater. That empowerment piece of it, right? Like what you're talking about. So like, I love that so much. Once
we do that, then the next piece that we want to be looking for is we've got to add, and this is the one that people get confused about. This is the one that's so confusing to people, because so many times you'll hear people say, oh, you just need to add gratitude. Just add gratitude. Be thankful that happened to you. Be thankful. People are like, I'm about to punch you in the face. I don't know what you're talking about. So here's really what they're trying to say to you. Here's really the message that's trying to be delivered. And the message is simply this, is that once you find the message, once you find the statement or the value or the message or the lesson,
the power, I love how you said that.
Then you show gratitude to self for that creation. That's where the gratitude really needs to be given, is, wow, I am really thankful that I was able to take that adversity and I was able to change it into something powerful and now learn from that. Now I'm grateful for me. Now I'm grateful for the incident, the event, the hurt, the pain. Now I'm grateful for that, if that makes sense.
Yes, because of what it is that has the lesson, the message, right? The value that has come out of going through that experience. It's not like, oh, I'm so grateful that this awful thing happened to me, or that I made this choice that really ended up hurting me pretty intensely, right? It's, what am I going to learn from it? What's the message? And then find the gratitude in your strength and your ability to find that message.
And that's not arrogant. That's not, being egotistical.
No.
That's just showing gratitude. Hey, wow, I did that. That's empowering. If I can do that, then I can do that with any other adversity that comes my way. And then that final step is that I have to really start becoming aware as the pain is diminishing. And once I turn, and I will promise you this, if you are listening to this and you have been wrestling with forgiveness, if you have been wrestling with an event, a process, abuse, hurt, pain, any of those things, we are not trying to trivialize those by any stretch of the imagination. Not. But what I will say to you is that if you can take that message from it, if you can take that lesson or the power from it, you will feel a shift in the lessening of the pain. I promise, I guarantee you will find a lessening of that pain within you. And as that lessening of the pain comes, monitor that, because the pain you get from, or the relief you get from the pain now will just increase and increase and increase and increase and increase until over time, just like I hardly ever notice the scar anymore until I think about what has happened in my past. But it's not painful anymore. But there was a time, it took a good year or so for that to stop being a painful thing. Mm-hmm. And those of you that have had physical or chronic pain know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Even emotional pain. Like, I can think about really traumatic, difficult things that I've gone through that now are just memory, right? And then because you can put these steps into play, you figure out what the message was, what you learned from it, how it helped you grow. And even if that is, wow, I know I'm not going to date someone like that again, right? Like,
yeah.
Now I want awareness of maybe some red flags that I didn't see before, or things like that, right? And so then I love that idea of keeping monitoring on your progress, which is also just going to increase your self-confidence and your ability to know that, hey, I'm making forward motion on this. I'm actually getting to this forgiveness place, this magical, mysterious land of forgiveness, right?
Right. And that's the part that we have to really resonate with is that progression. Some of us have the personality where we've been hurt so much in our lives that we just keep running from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, consistently running because we're afraid of letting the pain catch up or the past catch up or making the mistakes again. And because of that running process, it's harder for us to see our progress in life, because not only am I running past the difficulties and the pain and trying to outrun the pain, I'm also running so fast I can't see my growth.
Yes.
And so I want you to be aware, those of you that are listening and going, well, God, I can't ever see myself progressing. I bet if you really stopped running and slowed down, that you would start to see that progress, that you would start to see, hey, I am actually making progress and doing very, very well.
Yeah, and it'll just empower you to be able to sit there and face whatever it is that's going to catch up.
Yes.
Right?
It's never as scary as we think it's going to be, that I promise. And the one thing that is important for us to remember as human beings is we are resilient as human beings. Everything around us proves to us as a species that we're resilient. You are a resilient being. Look at the trials, the challenges, the hurts, the pains, and everything that you've been through, every human being goes through. You are resilient enough that you're here watching this. So we've got to lean into that resilience. We have to lean into that, but we've also got to find it. And that gives us the ability to be brave. So that was what we wanted to talk about today.
Can I read? Moira over here on Facebook has a really good question. She says, how do you know whether the pain is lessening or whether you have unhealthy burying it deeper not to feel the pain? That's a really good question.
That's a great question, Moira. And one of the best ways to determine that is, am I engaging in avoidant behaviors? Number one. And number two, have I taken the lesson from it?
Right.
So if I've taken the lesson from it and the pain's diminishing, then I know that I've done it in a healthy way. If I didn't take a lesson from it, but I've just kind of numbed out or avoided it in an unhealthy way, the pain can, in our minds, perceivably disappear. But if we stop and we engage in it, if we feel the full weight of it again, it's probably because we have not gone through that process yet.
So go through the steps. That's going to be the best way to know.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Did we answer Laura's? I can't remember that.
Oh, I didn't even see it up here.
And I didn't want to touch it because I knew I'd tip it over.
Right.
It was the one right there.
Oh, Laura just said, we can still be mad at them mad and maybe it was tell them to kiss off and go about our life without them. Does that make sense?
It can be a boundary, yes, Laura. There are people that we may still be angry about it, but the anger is a response to the pain.
Right.
So if I'm harboring anger, if I'm harboring that pain, that's only hurting me. It's not hurting them. But what I may want to be able to do is find the lesson in it. I will still have hurt and pain from it, and I may set a healthy boundary and say, hey, look, I don't need that individual in my life anymore, or I may limit that exposure to that person. But over time, with that pain will lessen. So the answer is yes, if we can do it with healthy boundaries.
Yep. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for the questions. You're awesome.
Great comments, great questions.
Before we go,
yes,
because we are out of time. Dina's always the one to notice what time it is, but I did today.
You did.
I'm working on my time. It's one of my challenges. I just wanted to let you guys know that we have our work. Is it a workbook, Dean?
It's an ebook.
It's an ebook.
10-page ebook.
On empowering women to find their voice.
Yes.
And you can, if you message us or just do a comment in here, if you want a copy of that ebook, it's free. You can also just go to our website. And you'll find it there, and you can just get it emailed to you right then. At the bottom go all the way to the bottom on our webpage. Yep, and you'll see it right there. So Dean worked really hard on that, and we finally got it all wrapped up, and it's available to you. A lot of help in editing to a lot of great people out there. Jamie Leitner helped us, and Kate, and so many other people, because I need help with it. But it is something I am passionate about. I am passionate about empowering women and to use their voice. There are messages that are being given to women every day that are inaccurate and inappropriate, and I'm tired of sitting down. I need everybody to rise up with me. I know that my good buddy Josh DeLong out in Michigan, he talks about rising up in dealing with addiction, which please do. Let's rise up with that too. But we all need to rise up with those things we're passionate about. And I'm passionate about helping women find that voice to be able to be heard and start to change the social dynamics that are causing our young women to feel like they are inadequate and they have to take their lives or diminish who they are because they don't want somebody to feel uncomfortable. So join me in that. Ask for that free ebook and start empowering other women, please. It's free to you. Just got to go out and grab it. Yep. So thank you. Yes. And we will look forward to seeing you all next week on Your Turn. Monday Night Live. Bye, guys. Have a great week. I'll get the upper one. Okay, sounds good.